Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cutting right through the hype and doing a reality check on what it actually takes to implement AI, data science, and analytics in the real world. We talk so much about what these technologies can do in theory, but right now we're going to look closely at what actually happens when they hit the ground in our organizations and in our society.
Let's kick things off with a massive number. $245 million. That's not exactly pocket change, right? Well, that is the exact amount Uber paid to Waymo to settle a brutal, highly publicized legal dispute over self-driving car intellectual property. We're talking about two of the biggest tech giants in the world locked in a fierce battle over who actually owned the knowledge and the code inside an automated vehicle.
So it makes you wonder, why are the stakes so incredibly high here? We aren't just talking about pushing a standard software update. When we implement AI, we are stepping into a total minefield of legality, data ownership, privacy, and ethics. And the financial and societal cost of getting it wrong, they're just staggering.
Let's jump into Section 1, the implementation process, going from just an idea to reality.
Because look, you don't just flip a switch and suddenly have AI running everything. There's a real 5-step process here. It starts with step 1, doing a thorough need assessment. Basically asking, what is the actual business case for this? Then you move through preparation, acquisition, and development. But I really want you to notice step 5, impact assessment. Once an AI system is actually up and running, management has to rigorously evaluate what the system actually changed in the real world. And honestly, this is where things often get incredibly complicated. Which brings us to Section 2, law, privacy, and ethics, the murky waters. And trust me, they get murky fast.
You know, there is this massive difference between what's legal and what's actually ethical. Legality, that's simply what a technology is strictly permitted to do by statute or common law. But ethics, on the other hand, well, that's a matter of our personal and societal values. It's the big question of what the technology should do. Just because some invasive data extraction technique is technically doable and perfectly legal, absolutely doesn't make it ethical or appropriate for a business to use.
We actually see this ethical tension every single day through modern privacy intrusions. Think about it. We have virtual assistants like Amazon's Alexa constantly listening in our living rooms. Over at Barclays Bank, they've actually used heat and motion sensors to track exactly how long their bankers are sitting at their desks. Delaware police are using AI dashcams to scan passing cars for fugitives. And incredibly, there's a company named Epicenter that literally offers its employees microchip implants to use as swipe cards. All of these just totally push the boundaries of our basic right to be left alone.
A really famous or maybe infamous example of this tension is the Facebook newsfeed experiment. Without explicitly asking for any sort of informed consent, the platform just altered the feeds of its users to monitor their emotional reactions. They were measuring replies, tracking likes, running sentiment analysis. It was basically an experiment in emotional manipulation that, while it might have been legally gray at the time, sparked this massive public backlash and intense ethical debate.
And honestly, these ethical breaches open up huge legal questions that we're entirely unprepared for. If an intelligent medical app gives you the wrong advice, who is liable? Is it the programmer, the hospital, the AI itself? Who owns the knowledge that a corporate chatbot accumulates over time? If your brand new car's sensors collect your driving data, who owns that data? You, the car maker, or maybe Apple and Google? And perhaps the most concerning question of all, what happens when an algorithm trained on flawed human data actually becomes racist or biased?
Moving on to Section 3, deployment challenges. This is what happens when these systems hit the ground.
So let's say you've somehow navigated that legal and ethical minefield. Now management has to confront the intense technological and human challenges of actually deploying the thing. Managers have to figure out how to securely connect new dynamic cloud-based AI to old rigid IT systems. They have to ensure the algorithms are learning accurately from clean, unbiased data. But the hardest part? It's human. It's overcoming intense employee resistance and the very real fear of job displacement, while simultaneously figuring out how to arrange productive teams made up of both people and robots.
That takes us to Section 4, the impact on organizations at the micro level.
As AI ripples outward through a company, the impacts branch into 3 distinct areas. First, it alters the organizational structure itself. Second, it fundamentally changes the day-to-day nature of work and jobs. And finally, it introduces these dangerous, unintended impacts, things like system accidents or model failures, that require constant, vigilant mitigation.
To handle all of these impacts, companies are completely redesigning their structures, using a new field called people analytics. This involves relying on data science and even GPS and physical sensors in the workplace to study organizational dynamics. And they aren't monitoring personnel behavior just for the sake of surveillance. They're doing it to figure out how to build better functioning, entirely data-driven project teams.
Now here's what I find truly fascinating, how AI actually shifts the balance of power inside a company. Because intelligent systems can process vast amounts of data and expedite high-level information, managers actually require less personal experience to make really complex decisions. They no longer have to rely as heavily on human experts and analysts. Routine decisions, those just become automated, and as a result, managerial power is completely redistributed across the entire organization. It's a real game changer.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 5. The future of work, the macro level. We are basically staring down the barrel of a radical industrial restructuring. On one hand, we're looking at massive job automation, which leads to a polarization of the labor market. The sources point out that the majority of jobs lost are going to be those middle-skilled jobs, effectively hollowing out the middle class. But juxtaposed against that is the creation of entirely new jobs. Intelligent systems will generate roles we probably can't even imagine yet. The catch, though, is that these new roles are going to require significant, widespread societal retraining. And right now, we are entirely unprepared for that.
So as these intelligent systems rewrite the rules of personal privacy, totally disrupt corporate structures, and permanently alter global labor markets, we are left staring at one final, absolutely critical question. As a society, as organizations, and just as individuals, how much of our human decision-making are we actually willing to hand over to machines? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the systems around you.